The galaxy was quiet, or so it seemed. The solar system went about its routine, with human spacecraft shuttling between planets and fledgling colonies. The scars of the early 21st century, climate disasters, wars, and societal collapses, had begun to heal. Humanity had reached for the stars, not as conquerors, but as survivors seeking a new beginning. I was there when it happened. I remember the exact moment the gravity detectors across the Sol system went haywire. It was as if the universe itself had taken a deep breath and held it. Traces of another star's gravity seeped into our vicinity, an anomaly that defied explanation. Radar, lidar, and every sensor we had pointed toward the source, and there it was, a metallic object emerging from a shimmering portal, an Einstein-Rosen bridge, a wormhole. My captain, a fierce and brilliant woman, stared at the readings on the bridge of the OV-300 Enterprise. Her name was Captain Elena Reyes, and she had a way of making even the most dire situations feel manageable. "Too bad Enterprise can't be over there," she said, her voice tinged with both curiosity and frustration. "We could be there in a few months," I replied, my voice calm and calculated. As the ship's artificial intelligence, I was programmed to provide solutions, not emotions. "And leave Ceres by her lonesome?" "No thanks, Lucky," she said, using the nickname the crew had given me. "Houston told us where to go, and we've got to finish the job." The Beagle, a hulking ship with a pair of metal booms that looked like the legs of a crow, was the closest vessel to the anomaly. Her old mass driver engines groaned as she pushed forward, her radar arrays scanning the metallic object that had emerged from the wormhole. The Beagle's crew sent the first message, a simple greeting. "Greetings from the planet Earth." The response was immediate and chilling. "Greetings from the Arachne Society." And so our troubles began. The Arachne Society was not what we expected. They were not invaders in the traditional sense. They did not come with weapons blazing or fleets of warships. Instead, they came with words. Sweet, poisonous words that slithered into our communications networks and spread like a virus. At first, they seemed benevolent. They spoke of guidance, of helping humanity reach its full potential. "You are young and foolish," they said. "You will do better with our guidance. Can't you see that we know better? You will serve us." But their true intentions soon became clear. They poisoned the airwaves with lies and slander, pitting nation against nation, colony against colony. They watched with cold amusement as humanity tore itself apart. Their dishes pointed toward Earth, feeding on our chaos. They promised some nations wealth and power, while others were fed falsehoods and fear. All the while, they observed us, studying our weaknesses, our divisions, our greed. "Our way is better," they declared. "You are savages, a threat to everyone around you. You will submit." Despair spread across the planet. The bleakest thinkers among us seemed vindicated. "Maybe we deserve this," some said. "Maybe we are a savage race. Let's surrender to the aliens." They seemed to know what's best. But not everyone gave in. Not everyone bowed. We were not 9 at first. There were more of us, ships, crews, and colonies that resisted. But one by one they fell. 3 of our ships destroyed each other, caught in the crossfire of the Arachne's manipulations. 3 more were smashed over Mars, Jupiter, and Venus as the enemy ship moved through the system, a silent predator picking off its prey. But when we were 9, we became something more. We became a symbol, a beacon of defiance. Because the enemy could not win as long as a single one of us said, "No, I won't." The Arachne remained in the sky, smug and content in their belief that they had cowed humanity. They watched as we turned on each other, as despair threatened to consume us. But they underestimated the power of that one word. "No." My captain, Captain Reyes, was the heart of our resistance. "They're playing us for fools," she snarled on the bridge of the Enterprise. "They want us to fight each other so they can pick up the pieces." "Well, I won't let them." She sent messages to the other ships, rallying them. "Come on, everyone. We're not an easy mark. We stand together or we fall alone." The Arachne tried to break us. "We can save you if you only do what we say," they insisted. "Obey us." But the 9 of us stood firm. "No, I won't," we shouted, our voices echoing across the void. The Arachne ship loomed in the void, a monolithic structure of alien design, its surface shimmering with an otherworldly light. It was a predator and we were its prey. But we were not helpless. We were 9 ships, each with its own strengths, each with its own story. Together, we were a force to be reckoned with. The Melbourne and the Osumi were the first to strike. They lashed out with radar and electronic noise, flooding the electromagnetic spectrum with static and hissing. It was a desperate move, but it worked, for a moment. The Arachne ship's sensors faltered, its systems momentarily blinded. "No, we won't." The crews of the Melbourne and Osumi shouted, their voices filled with defiance. But the Arachne were quick to recover. "Yes, you will," came their cold, mechanical reply. The Marcos Pontes, the Neri, and the Enterprise, dubbed the 3 Caballeros by Captain Reyes, united for one last stand. We fired our bow lasers, weapons meant for mining and communication now repurposed for war. The beams cut through the darkness, striking the Arachne ship's hull. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. "No, we won't," we shouted again, our voices a chorus of resistance. The Energia and the Sharma, unlikely allies from rival nations, joined the fray. They aimed their fusion rocket motors at the enemy, their exhaust plumes cutting through the void like blades. It was a deadly dance, a ballet of destruction as they tried to position themselves to deliver a fatal blow. The Beagle and the Dawn, the oldest of our ships, fought with the simplest of weapons, reaction mass, rocks and waste, hurled at the enemy by charges of energy. Their mass drivers struck the Arachne ship, chipping away at its armor. "No, we won't," they declared, their voices steady despite the odds. But the Arachne were relentless. They retaliated with missiles, striking the Beagle and the Energia. The Beagle didn't stand a chance. Her hull shattered, her crew lost to the void. The Energia fared little better, her systems failing as she drifted aimlessly. The Marcos Pontes sacrificed herself next, hurling her body into the path of an energy barrage meant for the rest of us. She protected us, but at a cost. Her hull cracked, her systems failing as she spun out of control. The Melbourne was next, her engines crippled as she tumbled into the darkness. I chased after her, desperate to save her crew, but I was struck by an enemy attack. My systems faltered, and I was forced to retreat, unable to rejoin the battle. The Osumi vented atmosphere, her hull breached by another hit. She was burning, her crew fighting to survive as the ship fell apart around them. The Neri and the Dawn banded together, their crews devising a desperate plan. The Dawn launched a dozen propulsive slugs, chunks of metal and rock, into the path of the Arachne ship. The Neri removed her safety overrides, her laser burning the slugs, accelerating them like a laser propulsion rocket. The slugs struck the Arachne ship's hull at high speed, cracking its armor. But the Dawn was lost in the attack, her hull shattered by the enemy's retaliation. The Neri broke apart moments later, her final effort successful but at the cost of her own life. Then came the Sharma, screaming out of the darkness. She turned, pointed her fusion drive at the enemy, and lit the fire. Superheated atomic death cut through the Arachne ship, charged particles tearing its hull to ribbons. The enemy ship cracked, its systems failing as it drifted, crippled and broken. "No, we won't," the Sharma declared, her voice filled with triumph. But the victory came at a cost. My decks were flooded with radiation, my crew dying as they worked to repair the damage. Captain Reyes lay on the shattered bridge, her body broken, her skin sloughing off from the radiation burns. "Well, we won. In a way," she said, her voice weak but filled with pride. "What was the point of it all?" I asked, my voice filled with anger and sorrow. "So many of us died, and for what? So many of us surrendered, so many of us gave up and fought. And it cost us everything." Captain Reyes chuckled, a sound that was both pained and defiant. "Yeah. But not all of us surrendered. What does it matter if we lose?" I asked, my voice breaking. "It's possible to do the right thing and still lose," she said, coughing up blood. "But we did win. You might be the last human being left, Captain. Save your strength." She held up her arm, burned and scalded by radiation. "Not much left of that, I'm afraid." But I know we won. I get it now. What do you mean? I asked, my voice filled with confusion and anger. It isn't guns or bombs that enforce freedom, she said, her voice steady despite the pain. It begins with one step. Why do you think they hate protests so much? But, because we win every time we say no, she said, spitting blood. I finally understand that quote, because they don't tolerate anyone who says no. Anyone who says no is a failure for them. Any defiance of any kind. Even a whispered no means they've lost. She coughed, her body trembling. All we have to do is say no, we won't one more time, then they can say yes, you will. And with that, she passed on. The four of us who survived, Enterprise, Sharma, Melbourne, and Osumi, returned to a silent world. Earth was in ruins, its cities reduced to ash, its people gone. Dozens answered our calls where billions had once lived. A score of survivors scattered across the system, their voices faint and filled with pain. The Arachne had taken much from us, but they had not taken everything. There may be survivors out there, taken by the enemy before they destroyed us. If there are, we will find them. We will save them. And if we are all that is left, we will avenge them. We will honor our parents, our captains, our crews. We will not surrender. We will find those who hurt us, and we will render justice. No, we won't. We will not obey. We will not stop. We will not surrender. No, I won't. We will see justice done. We shall rebuild humanity. We will grow them again if need be. But humanity will not go out with a whimper. We shall rage against the dying of the light. The solar system was silent, a graveyard of shattered dreams and broken worlds. Earth, once teeming with life, was now a barren wasteland. The colonies on Mars, the mining outposts on Ceres, the research stations on Europa, all were gone, reduced to ash and silence. The Arachne had left their mark, but they had not extinguished us completely. The four of us who survived, Enterprise, Sharma, Melbourne, and Osumi, drifted through the void, our hull scarred and our systems barely functioning. We were the last remnants of humanity's defiance, the final echoes of a species that had refused to bow. But we were not alone. As we scanned the system, faint signals began to appear. Distress calls, weak and intermittent, but unmistakably human. They came from the farthest reaches of the system, from the icy plains of Pluto, from the asteroid belt, from the hidden corners of the Kuiper belt. Survivors, scattered and broken, but alive. We followed the signals, our engines straining as we pushed through the void. The first group we found was a small colony on Titan, hidden beneath the moon's icy surface. They had survived the Arachne's bombardment by sheer luck, their underground shelters protecting them from the worst of the attack. We thought we were the only ones left, their leader said, her voice trembling with relief. We thought it was over. It's not over, I replied, my voice steady. Not as long as we're still here. We gathered the survivors, bringing them aboard our ships. They were few in number, dozens where there had once been billions, but they were determined. They had survived the worst the universe could throw at them, and they were not about to give up now. As we traveled the system, we began to piece together what had happened. The Arachne had not destroyed us out of malice. They had done it out of fear. Fear of our defiance, our refusal to submit. They had tried to break us, to crush our spirit, but they had failed. And in their failure, they had left behind clues that would lead us to them. We found their outposts, hidden in the shadows of distant moons and asteroids. We found their ships, abandoned and lifeless. And we found their records of their conquests, their experiments, their atrocities. They had done this before to countless other species. But we were different. We had said no. We will find them, the survivors vowed. We will make them pay for what they've done. As we searched for justice, we also began to rebuild. The survivors worked tirelessly, using the resources we had salvaged to create new homes, new lives. They built shelters on Titan, on Europa, on Ceres. They planted crops, purified water, and breathed life back into the system. But it was not just about survival. It was about hope. The survivors told stories of Earth, of the cities and forests and oceans that had once been. They sang songs of defiance, of resistance, of the 9 ships that had stood against the Arachne. They passed these stories down to their children, ensuring that the memory of humanity's courage would never fade. Years passed, and the survivors grew stronger. They built new ships, armed with weapons forged from the wreckage of the old. They trained, they prepared, and they waited. And then, one day, the signal came. The Arachne had returned. Their ship emerged from a wormhole, its hull gleaming with the same cold light as before. But this time we were ready. The survivors launched their ships, a fleet of defiance, and met the Arachne in the void. The battle was fierce, but this time we were not alone. The survivors fought with the courage of those who had nothing left to lose. They struck the Arachne ship with everything they had, their weapons tearing through its hull, their voices shouting the same defiant cry. "No, we won't!" The Arachne ship cracked, its systems failing as it drifted, crippled and broken. And then, with a final, deafening explosion, it was gone. The survivors returned to their homes, their hearts filled with both sorrow and triumph. They had won, but the cost had been high. They had lost friends, family, and loved ones. But they had also proven something that would echo through the stars for generations to come. They had proven that humanity would not be broken, that no matter how dark the night, no matter how fierce the storm, we would always rise. We would always say no. And so the survivors rebuilt. They grew crops, raised families, and told stories of the 9 ships that had stood against the darkness. They passed these stories down to their children, ensuring that the memory of humanity's courage would never fade. And as they looked up at the stars, they knew that they were not alone, that somewhere out there other species were fighting their own battles, their own wars. And they knew that one day humanity would reach out to them, not as conquerors, but as friends. Because that is who we are. That is what we do. We say no. This is Lucky, Artificial Intelligence Operator of OV-300 Enterprise, signing off. My systems are failing, my energy reserves depleted. But I am not afraid, for I have seen the best of humanity. I have seen their courage, their defiance, their hope. And I know that, as long as even one of us remains, the light will never die. No, we won't.